Hey, welcome back, everyone. You already know how to carry the weight and handle the pressure. You've definitely handled the responsibility and the expectations. And you've served people on their worst day. You've learned to operate tired. You've learned to solve problems under pressure. And you've learned to adapt. But for veterans and first responders, there's a weight and pressure that doesn't really get enough attention, especially while you're still serving. It's money. But more important, proper financial planning. No, money isn't everything. But good financial planning decides how much choice you'll have when the uniform comes off for the last time. Now, most of us probably think that transition finances means savings plans and expense sheets and figuring out retirement numbers. But that's not what this episode is about. It's about how addressing your financial planning is about leverage when you come to your transition. Because the day will come when a decision gets put in front of you. That job offer that just doesn't feel right. A relocation that you don't want. A boss that you already can tell you probably won't get along with. A salary that's lower than you expect. And in that moment, your financial position will either give you options or take them away. That's the part nobody warns you about. Financial readiness isn't about becoming rich. It's about creating enough breathing room that your next move becomes a choice instead of a reaction. But here's the uncomfortable reality. You've spent years or even decades being the one called to solve everyone else's problems. And sometimes, when we leave service and surrender our leverage because we can't afford not to. All because many of us never treat financial readiness as an integral part of the mission. You wouldn't deploy without logistics. You wouldn't run an operation without contingency plans. You wouldn't brief a team and say, we'll figure it out when we get there. But far too many of us head into transition doing exactly that. This episode isn't about budgeting. This is about freedom. It's about optionality. About buying yourself time and giving yourself space. We'll get back into this topic more, but first, we're going to take a minute and acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. As a first responder, control isn't optional. It's how you do your job. But when it comes to buying or refinancing a home, most lenders don't get your world. Police Mortgage does. They specialize in working with first responders, walking you through the process, breaking down your options, and helping you lock in competitive rates without the runaround. Take control of your financial future with people who have your back. Visit policemortgage.com or call 312-499-8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. Right now, relatively speaking, you're sitting in a position of security. You have a steady paycheck. You obviously know your job inside and out, and you know what's expected of you. But the civilian job market is a different beast. It's about market value, not a contracted salary range. When you look at your paycheck, you see your base pay. You might think that's the number you need to match in the civilian world. But you might also be overlooking some very important aspects. You're probably forgetting about the allowances like housing and food or covered healthcare premiums. Speaking about healthcare, when you separate, does your organization offer any type of retiree medical? Are you factoring in the money that you earn or money that you save from having a take-home vehicle? Are there education or seniority incentives? And do they count towards your retirement calculations? When you factor in what's provided to you above your base pay, you'll likely need a civilian job that pays 15 to 30% higher than your current gross income to account for the taxes and the expenses you'll be paying. If you don't recognize this while you're still serving, you're setting yourself up for a major financial shock when you get out. The reality gets even tougher when you consider the administrative side of leaving service. there's going to be a temporary cash flow freeze. It happens when you hand in your ID card and walk out the gate for that last time. You can be expecting your VA disability, your pension, your retirement, whatever it is, but those systems are not historically efficient. It can take 60 days or more for the money to start hitting your bank account. Personally, I filed my retirement paperwork several months before my retirement date, and I was told that my retirement check would hit the first month I was retired. It still took 2 months after I retired to get my first check. So if you walk out the door with nothing but your final paycheck, you could be looking at 2 to 4 months with no income. And according to data from some veteran advocacy groups, more than 1 in 3 veterans faces severe financial stress within the first 2 years of leaving service. Even worse, nearly 40% of families transitioning out have less than $500 in emergency savings. In essence, they're completely unprotected. And when you lack cash, you lose your ability to make strategic choices, as well as your options to be patient. This is where discipline has to come into play. You've got to map out a financial hierarchy today, while you still have some time before your transition. Now, obviously, this is much harder if you're in the middle of your transition and say your finances weren't addressed before now. If this is you, all I can tell you is try to reduce your peripheral spending wherever you can and set a survival budget until your next job kicks in. Now, I want to preface this by saying I'm not a financial planner, nor am I giving any financial advice. Yes, in this episode, I am going to be addressing some basic financial principles and terms, but that's it. There is a difference between assets and investments versus your liabilities. In your current world, it's incredibly easy to collect the liabilities. Liabilities are your legal obligation to deliver cash or financial assets to another party. Basically, you have bills that have to be paid. We see it all the time in every parking lot of any military base or any first responder organization. It's the pretty lifted to the sky pickup trucks that have the equally high interest loan payments. It's the massive mortgage on a house that you hope you don't end up upside down on if the market turns. And don't forget the credit card debt accumulated keeping up with the other members of your unit. Those are liabilities that drain your cash every single month. They're financial weights, basically tied to your ankles. So when you're preparing for your transition, your primary mission is to lower your burn rate. That's the money that goes out each month. You might have to do this by aggressively liquidating your liabilities and stockpiling cash. Because discipline means looking at your bank account and realizing that a 6-month cash buffer is a strategic capital runway. It's an operational asset that buys you time. If you have 6 months of living expenses stacked up, you have leverage. When a company offers you a lowball salary for a job that maybe you only need as a transition job, you can say no. You can hold out for a position that actually respects your skills and matches your worth. But if your bank account is sitting at zero, it can feel like that recruiter owns you. You'll likely take whatever offer they throw at you because your mortgage is due and your family needs to eat. You might end up trading your pride for the desperation of a paycheck. Think about how that survival panic will feel. It chips away at your confidence and creates a massive strain on your home. And research shows that financial insecurity is the single largest driver of depression and stress during transition. It's a hidden threat that sneaks up on veterans and first responders because our ego prevents us from talking about it. We're too proud to admit that we financially are not prepared, so we mask it until the floor gives way below us. Don't wait for the system to force your hand. The discipline you use every day to maintain your gear, show up on time, and execute your current mission needs to be applied to your personal finances, starting today. Look at every dollar that leaves your pocket as a resource that could have bought you a day of freedom in the civilian world. If you buy a bunch of useless stuff that you can't truly afford right now, you're actively going to have to sell off pieces of your future autonomy and your leverage. Also, if you want more on this topic, along with more information on transition planning and preparation, I recommend my weekly newsletter. Check out the link in the show notes to sign up. I know you'll get something from it. There's no alternative scenario where you skip the financial prep work and somehow magically land on your feet with your autonomy intact. If you don't lock down your finances today, you're actively planning for a disaster. You can have the most polished resume in the world, a network full of high-level contacts, and years of elite experience. But if your bank account is empty, none of it matters. Your lack of cash will completely neutralize your tactical advantages. Think about the psychological shift you'll face. Right now, you're part of a tight-knit unit. You're surrounded by people who share your values and have your back in chaotic situations. In the civilian marketplace, it doesn't operate on camaraderie. It operates on value, profit, and return on investment. When you step into that world without a financial buffer, your mindset shifts from a position of strength to a position of vulnerability. You can't afford to view your transition through the lens of wishful thinking. And a lot of veterans and first responders fall into the trap of assuming that in their transition, financially speaking, everything will just work out. We think our service automatically guarantees us a smooth landing that's really just a nice illusion. The market is brutally neutral. It doesn't owe you a job, it doesn't care about your sacrifices, and it definitely doesn't care about your past accomplishments. If you approach the civilian sector with an attitude of entitlement, backed by zero financial runway, you'll likely get crushed. This is why you need to protect yourself from paycheck dependency. Because when you rely entirely on a single source of income to keep your life afloat, you're actually just a hostage. In your career, your paycheck has always showed up. That consistency creates, in essence, a false sense of security that makes you believe you're financially stable. But the moment you transition, that stability vanishes. And if you have not broken that dependency by building a significant capital asset pool, you're walking into the civilian world basically defenseless. Because then there's the second order effect of entering the civilian job market while you're broke. When you're financially desperate, it shows. It comes out in your interviews. It changes your posture. And it completely alters how you communicate with potential employers. Civilian hiring managers, they can spot that financial desperation. And when they sense that you need the job just to survive, your negotiating power disappears. They know that they can lowball you on your salary, offer you fewer benefits, and demand more of you because you're not in a position to walk away from the table. Your lack of discipline today literally prices you out of a better future tomorrow. Furthermore, consider the strain that it puts on your family. Transition will already be incredibly stressful for both your spouse and your kids. They'll also be adjusting to your new routine and dealing with the uncertainty of what comes next. And if you layer financial crisis on top of that, you're introducing a level of instability that can tear a household apart. The pride you feel in your career today will quickly be replaced by the heavy burden of knowing you failed to secure your home for the people who matter most. Your transition is a closing window. Every month that passes where you choose to spend money on liabilities instead of growing assets is a month of leverage you're throwing away. You have to start treating your personal economy with the same level of strategic seriousness that you bring to an operation. If you saw a team member ignoring a threat during an operation, you'd call them out on it instantly. You'd tell them that their complacency is going to get somebody hurt. It's time to look in the mirror and apply that exact same standard to yourself. If you lack the discipline to audit your expenses, cancel the unnecessary subscriptions, sell the vehicle that's draining your paycheck, and build a money safety net today, you're choosing to let a civilian employer dictate your worth. You're choosing to step out of a position of authority and into a position of being dependent on somebody. The mission of transition requires a complete lockdown of your capital. It demands that you treat every dollar as an ally in your defense fund. If you fail to execute this discipline today, the civilian world will break you tomorrow. There are no shortcuts. You need to lock it down now. But let's take another quick break to acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll close this episode out. When it comes to sunglasses, first responders and military members definitely don't baby them. They get dropped, thrown in a utility pocket, or tossed in gear bags. Frontline Optics was created for that reality. You get premium eye protection without paying designer brand prices for something that won't survive your lifestyle. From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective coatings and water-repellent finish. And here's where Frontline Optics separates themselves from the pack. When life happens and your glasses break, they offer a no-questions-asked replacement program, even for prescription lenses. On top of that, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every purchase goes to support the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping families of those who gave everything. So if you're looking for sunglasses that look good and come from a company that actually understands the job, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines. Stop looking at your transition as a human resources process and start looking at it as a professional offensive. You're transitioning from being managed by a government system to becoming the sole engine of your own life. The uniform you wear right now is a powerful chapter of your life, but it can't be the crutch you lean on for your future. The market doesn't pay you for past glory. It pays for current value backed by strategic patience. Your capital runway is the tactical high ground. When you have 6 months or a year of survival cash as your QRF, you don't walk into civilian interviews begging for a job. You walk into rooms looking for a partnership. You possess the elite discipline, the emotional intelligence, and the operational experience that civilian CEOs desperately need. But you'll only get paid what you're worth if you have the financial power to stand your ground. This requires an immediate audit of your personal life. Stop funding the liabilities that feed your ego and start gathering the assets that secure your freedom. Look at your financial accounts not as a safety net, but as your primary weapon system for the next battle space, which is the civilian market. Your timeline is ticking down every day, whether you'd want to admit it or not. Don't let complacency turn your exit into an ambush. Build your stronghold and maintain your tactical leverage. I appreciate you staying until the end. Staying all the way through helps the engagement ratings. I can't say this enough. Please send me your comments. Be honest with me. Tell me what you like. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. That should be easy. I can't make any changes unless you tell me what you need. Also, please share the podcast with anyone who you think would benefit from and enjoy it. And if you're not already, please follow the podcast wherever you're getting this episode. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.